Government has reviewed its strategy to fight illegal mining with an assurance of sustaining the momentum to clamp down on persons involved in the destruction of Ghana's water bodies and forests. Addressing the press after a meeting with the Chief of Defense Staff and the Military High Command, Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abuchi said the new measures will be rolled out and made public soon.
The fundamental conclusion of our meeting is that we are going to sustain our efforts at coming to grips with this menace, this existential threat of illegal small-scale mining. The Military High Command, under the leadership of the CDS, is committed to continue to pursue the measures which they've rolled out currently to make sure that we resolve the issue of illegal small-scale mining. We've reviewed our strategy, we've tweaked the strategy, and I believe that the Military High Command will roll them out and make them public as and when they deem it fit.
Many have said that we should have a permanent post for the military men, so that it will not be a case where they come and then they go, because the legal men say that when the soldiers come, when they are tired and they leave, you come back. Are we going to have a permanent post?
Well, we'll leave that to the discretion of the Military High Command. Matters of strategy, operational strategy and the rest, I think we'll leave that to them. But most important thing is that we are never going to relent. We're going to keep up with it. We're going to keep up with it, and we're going to sustain the momentum, that I can assure you. The nitty-gritties of it, as I say, I'll leave it to the military.
He's also been responding to the president's comment on Kunta Mining. He says the president's comment was rather an assurance that at the time he was speaking, the company was not engaged in any unauthorized mining. Before we hear him, what did the president say? Listen.
Before I take my seat, let me respond briefly to the chairperson on the issue of illegal mining. I want to assure him and all of you that Kunta Mining is not engaged in any illegal mining anywhere in Ghana as we speak. Further, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has, through the agency of the Forestry Commission, with the assistance of the military, made the effort to cordon off all 294 sites of forest reserves in the country and rid them of illegal mining as we speak. We will continue to work to ensure that this situation remains permanent. This government is determined to win the fight against galamsey, no matter the cost in effort.
The Lands Minister, however, says the president's comment does not absolve Kunta Mining from culpability, as his outfit is working with the special prosecutor on the matter.
So the president sought to respond and assure the conference, and for that matter, the country. So the president's comments were actually an assurance to the conference and the country. And what was that assurance? The president said, as he spoke, and by that, as at yesterday, Kunta Mining was not engaged in any illegal mining activities in any forest reserve. And indeed, the president went further to assure the country that under his instructions, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Forestry Commission is actually cordoned off the 294 forest reserves in our country. He said that as well. You know, I mean, for some reason that is be taken out of the discourse. But the president gave a further assurance that not only is Kunta Mining not engaged in illegal mining activities in any forest reserve, as he spoke yesterday, but additionally, he had put in place measures, his government had put in place measures to protect the 294 forest reserves of our country from attacks from illegal miners and illegal mining activities. So the president was not speaking about the wrongdoing or otherwise of Kunta Mining in the past, the criminality or otherwise of Kunta Mining in the past. He was not commenting on what happened in the past. He was giving an assurance of the state of affairs as at the time he was addressing the conference. And that is a statement of fact. And for me, I think that the president should be commended, the government should be commended, that we've gotten to a situation where we can confidently say that we are protecting the forest reserves of our country. That's essentially what the president said.
Well, environmentalist Awula Sewa describes the development as sad for the country's fight against galamsey. She spoke to me on News Desk a while ago.
It's very sad to hear this. This is a president who told us he was putting his presidency on the line regarding illegal mining. We know as a fact, the evidence is there, that Kunta Mining entered the Tano Nimiri Forest Reserve. We know for a fact that they did so. So for the president to tell us that as we speak, they are not engaged in illegal mining, it's like arresting an armed robber, taking his tools after he has traumatized and robbed a family, and then telling the family that at this current time, he's not engaged in armed robbery. Would that bring any comfort? What we want is accountability. And I'm happy to hear that the Media Commission against galamsey is also doing its bit. And we hope that investigations will be conducted and the directors of Kunta Mining prosecuted for having entered the forest reserve and caused damage. We need to take the right action, regardless of who is involved in it. The perception right now is that a lot of the illegal mining is sanctioned by various political interests.
Away from galamsey, the anger of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has been pacified after the Ashanti Regional National Service Secretariat boss was handed punishment for verbally abusing a nurse at the Mensa Government Hospital in November 2022. A committee of inquiry set up by the Secretariat handed Mr. Alex Opoku Mensa a 2-month suspension without pay after investigating the matter. So Opoku Mensa has also been demoted to work under supervision at the head office and to offer an official apology to the scheme for his actions. These recommendations have been welcomed by the Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association, who earlier demanded that he be sacked. We'll hear from them shortly. First, let's speak to Director of Corporate Affairs at the National Service Secretariat, Armstrong Esa, on the recommendations. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Esa. Has Mr. Alex Opoku Mensa acknowledged these sanctions and has he acted upon them?
Yes, thank you, Aisha, for giving me your audience. Mr. Alex Opoku Mensa has complied with all the directives, all the sanctions that have been meted out to him. And he's acknowledged all of them. He has complied with all of them, including the offer of apology letter to the National Service Scheme, and he has begun his suspension already. And so he has complied with all the directives and the recommendations of the committee.
So the apology, in which format is it supposed to come? I mean...
Yes, you know, when the incident happened, he leveraged his power as the Ashanti Regional Director for the National Service Scheme and threatened the nurse. And so the committee saw it as a clear case of abuse of power, and that has actually brought the name of the National Service Scheme into disrepute. And so we have asked him to apologize to the scheme and also to offer a clear statement that that would not happen again. And so he's done that. If you look closely at our code of conduct, it prohibits every single staff member of the National Service Scheme to engage in fighting, insult, unpleasant language, either on our compound or outside the compound. So anybody involved in that, put the organization into a state of disrepute, and that is exactly what he's asking to do. And so he's apologized for that. Management has accepted the apology that is written. And even before he wrote this officially to us, you remember he wrote on his Facebook and honestly apologized to the entire public. He apologized to the nurses and the midwives. He apologized to the National Service Scheme, and he regretted the excesses and what happened at the scene. So management has accepted his apology.
So he's supposed to work under supervision after the suspension. What role will he be playing at the head office then?
Yes, that is going to be determined by management. And so what I can say for sure is that He's going to work under a couple of heads of departments. Because he's coming to the head office, he's not coming there as a director, but he's coming there to work under some heads of departments for purposes of learning and also for the management to be certain that the tendencies to, get adverse with the speeches and comments will be a thing of the past. And so management would assign him role. In fact, it's already been discussed that I do not have the clearance to speak to those matters, but management has decided exactly what he's going to do at the head office. He's going to work under certain heads of departments, from one department or to the other. And that's exactly what he's going to do when it comes to the head office.
So, of course, in terms of relationship, we know that that relationship between the Secretariat and nurses have been mad. What measures are you putting in place to ensure that this relationship is resolved?
Yes, my executive director, in fact, has had a lot of meetings with the leadership. And I think, first of all, it's quite important for me to appreciate the cooperation we have received from the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, and also to thank them on behalf of the National Service Team for the cooperation and the support they've given us. Yes, initially they had a very safe position on this matter, but after we've gone through the due process, I'm happy the position they have taken that, and we appreciate them so much. If you look carefully at the position of the committee, you will notice that we had reps from Ministry of Health, which obviously represents their interest. We had reps from Ministry of Education, the Labour Commission, and National Service Team. So after all these engagements, I am very much aware that management, headed by Honorable today entry, have had series of meetings with the leadership of the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association to see to it that that would not happen. Because we would continue until the law is changed. We will continue to deploy nurses for national service. In that case, they call it orientation. We will continue to work with them. We will continue to do a lot of government works with them. And so we are so happy that as we speak, the meetings that have been held with them have been so successful, and we appreciate the cooperation that they've given us.
Mr. Armstrong, I'm grateful for your time. He's Director of Corporate Affairs as a National Service Secretariat, President of the Midwives, Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association, Perpetual, has indicated that they are happy with the sanctions meted on the NSS director in the Ashanti region and hopes he will learn from his mistakes. We'll bring you her sound later. Meanwhile, former director of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Ajiman Bedu-Akosa, is calling for the establishment of a general supervisory body to resolve the tension between various associations in the health sector. Professor Bedu-Akosa made the call in relation to the recurring disagreement between the Ghana Medical Association and the Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists over the years and the incidents involving Mr. Mensa at the Mensa government hospital. He was speaking in an exclusive interview with JoyNews on the sidelines of the launch of the maiden GMA MTN Doctors Awards in Accra.
Ghana Medical Association launched the maiden edition of the GMA MTN Doctors Award at the GMA House in Accra to celebrate the contribution of doctors to the health sector. Highlighting the rationale behind the awards, the General Secretary of the Association, Dr. Titus Kofi Bayo, said this will boost the morale of doctors across the country.
The award seeks to achieve only three things. One is to recognize and reward deserving doctors for their dedicated service to the nation. It is secondly to motivate other doctors to aspire to excellence in the profession. Finally, it seeks to foster collaboration between doctors, the GMA, and other stakeholders in the health sector and in the country in general.
Speaking to Joy News on the sideline of the event, a former director of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa, emphasized the essence of a regulatory body in addressing the friction between the medical associations.
I think one of the difficulties is that in this country there is lack of supervision. There's lack of supervision of all professional groupings. And it has allowed people to attempt to do what they like. And in essence, to go beyond what their capacity and capability permits them. And that is why this friction continues. Because I've worked in the UK, I know what happens there. There is no difficulty. Everybody, every professional group knows what they do, and they do it very well. And in the end, the patient gets better. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. And I want to implore all health professionals that we are in a new year. Let all of us pace back one moment, reflect on our training, on our capacity, on our capability, and know that we work as a team, a harmonious team, for the benefit of the patient, for the benefit of society, and for the benefit of this country, Ghana.
Professor Akosa noted that failure to do this could be destructive to Ghana's health sector.
Oh, I think it will be destructive. It will be destructive. You know, I said that elsewhere, where there are many, many subspecialties, it takes 65 professionals to treat one person. You can imagine the confusion if these 65 professionals are at each other's throat. The bottom line is that the patient will not be healthy, society will not be healthy, and Ghana as a whole will not be healthy.
The maiden edition of the Doctors Award is in partnership with MTN Business and is expected to come off in January next year to mark the start of an annual Doctors' Day celebration across the country. James Kwesi Aveji's report for Joy News.
Dean of the University of Professional Studies Law School, Professor Kofi Abuchi, says although the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor has been a major milestone, there's a danger ahead to render it redundant like other state institutions mandated to fight corruption if government continuously fails to empower it. Professor Abuchi, who was speaking on the Super Morning Show, said the OSP is a useful instrument in sealing all loopholes in the system. Before we listen to Kofi Abuchi, let's listen to Special Prosecutor Kesie Jabin, who himself has been raising concerns about government's lack of commitment in fighting corruption.
Clearly, Mr. Kesie Jabin has hinted on, he hasn't been detailed on the real reasons why he's saying those things. He's just mentioned the principle broadly without going into the details. But clearly, it does seem that there's still an awful lot of work to be done to demonstrate commitment. And the fight against corruption invariably goes beyond reach.
We apologize for the wrong insert. We'll take a break on Joy News today. We'll bring you more shortly. Welcome back to Joy News today. To the rest of our stories, poor road infrastructure is almost synonymous with rural Ghana. However, for places where Ghana gets a lot of its resources, residents cannot comprehend how, despite their resources, their roads are left to deteriorate without attention from government. One of such places is the Wasa Amenfi West Municipality. Joy News' Samuel Kojobri has traveled to the area recently, and here is what the cameras captured.
Okwane de ye ka se mla na eboa ye ble papa isisi nyina ye peppers cry ntumi nto.
A frustrated taxi driver in Asankragwa speaking to me about the impact of the poor nature of the Asankragwa Border Road. Driver Akwesi Abodo says he doesn't understand why their roads have been abandoned by government over the years.
Ye koko enam kwen so samates for enam kwen so ye kwen nyina sese o ja sese koko se Ghana se wasa no ye ne wasa particular se ye ne yenka ho a mum ye hu kwen baba so ye de koko ni etimba no ebe ye chance ye koko ni etimba ene ne nyina gina wasa so nenso ne wasa hwe kwan body hakakra tu asenkwa ma se tumi blessa ye ka etumi ye ta papai ye shocks nyina sese passengers for nyina ma se obedu fekwa no nyina ho week.
The Wasa area of the western region, especially Wasa Amenfi West, is a leading cocoa production area, contributing hugely to Ghana's cocoa output. However, it is among the areas with the poorest road networks in the country.
So that's an ambulance coming in towards Asankragwa. Now look at how slow the ambulance is driving. It is because of the poor nature of this road. So question is, if there's a patient in this ambulance, how fast can the ambulance take the patient?
The bad nature of the Border Asankragwa Road has been so for years now. Gloria, a resident of Cape Wating, a community which is about 40 minutes drive from Asankragwa, says the nature of the road is a nightmare for people of this area.
I am just want to say
Kebedu is a driver in Asankragwa. He says the roads have been heavily impacting on their vehicles.
Ye kwan de no kranya me anum emwaye ye no ye fa kwan so aye bre afi ye to pass na endu na wotwe na ya zo ba pai ye to bodwanta na say ye to ensa na say ye nji kwa tumi kopem na ye nji na se apai na nji no breki the amount by for no mwaye.
Gloria wants government to intervene.
This Hanum say no cast nature one, Otomadi or Mutimi Bone soon go so. A good man, a son say Hanning into motors, Nenam Han, a day could be the baby raga muma. Oh, yeah. The best rest on Barbara my
Driver Akwesi Abodo is appealing to the Ghana Cocoa Board to construct their roads with a Cocoa Road initiative.
Wasane ne mana ye ne wodo wasase no eboa Ghana mo na so hwe kwan na so ye school ye bibia ne enso bibia na bia ekwan bia no ye papa ndi asemba invo se Cocoa Road no so mo ya omo moen oh ye me ati se ye mpa invo pa da Cocoa no kwa wasa France ya ndi o magboa wasafo yi o magboa wasafo na wasan so ye kwan entumi ye bi Cocoa Road so mo ya o mnya bi moa enso ye na me driver ni okofa o ni ban wo adwuma ma me ni ho hwe me de kwan no na beboa ama me me busu so anasem na me yire mo ze twa yire ma na be kwadwuma se spare parts asese be de nyeska Kofi officer ndi kwan de and dey abo ye ne wasa de ye bre o ye kwan.
Driver Kebedu says if government doesn't intervene, they will advise themselves.
Ya border ya ye demonstration still almost all mobile yama so ye wu hwe afi de omo ba te say mo de ama contract aso ya hwa o ma di banifo lo mo moye yes I kan hu demonstration dia and ye be na wo twe ma ka bia free asekregua enko border na bogo so na kropon.
Only if government will heed to their request, it will bring a huge relief to the people producing Ghana's cocoa. From Asankragwa, for JoyNews, I am Samuel Kojo Brace.
We can now go back to our story where Dean of University of Professional Studies Law School, Professor Kofi Abuchi, says although the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor has been a major milestone, there's a danger ahead to render it redundant like other state institutions mandated to fight corruption if government continuously fails to empower it. Professor Abuchi, who was speaking on the Super Morning Show, said the OSP is a useful instrument in sealing loopholes in the system. Before we listen to Kofi Abuchi, let's listen to the Special Prosecutor Kisejabing himself, who's been raising concerns about government's lack of commitment in the fight against corruption.
I believe we can collaborate more. I believe we can be more selfless. I believe we can win the fight against corruption. So I charge the anti-corruption. Let us do so. Let us not disappoint Ghana. On the part of the government ready for the fight against corruption. From where I sit, I have not seen much. I have not seen much commitment. I have heard lip service on too many occasions paid to the fight against corruption. The government ready to fight against corruption. Let us see in real food. Let us see that in real support for the anti-corruption. Once again, from where I sit, I do not see much.
We can now hear from Kofi Abuchi, who is advising government to make use of the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Clearly, Mr. Kisejabing has hinted on, he hasn't been detailed on the real reasons why he's saying those things. He's just mentioned the principle broadly without going into the details. But clearly, it does seem that there's still an awful lot of work to be done to demonstrate commitment. And the fight against corruption invariably goes beyond regimes. I think that the establishment of the OSP was a major milestone. But there's a danger that the OSP can be frozen in time if it is not empowered to do what Shraj did, especially in the 90s. When Shraj was established in the 90s and early 2000s, Shraj became the most powerful entity, if you ask me. Government agencies, administrative bodies, everybody was concerned or worried about Shraj because of the empowerment of the entity at the time. I think that the opportunity is still there, and OSP. The OSP can be empowered, but the concerns and the frustrations expressed by the officer, the prosecutor himself, is one that hopefully should be acted upon, and is one that we should all not take lightly, particularly because we are also on this verge of IMF, the fight for the IMF situation. The World Bank estimated more than 10 years ago that Ghana loses $3 billion every year to corruption. More than 10 years ago. I think the estimation now should be more than $4 billion. We lose so much money, and in terms of going for fund bailouts, going to get similar amounts when we can actually mop up the liquidity and mop up the leakages to ensure that we sort of shore up on some of our operation. The OSP could become a very good instrument for government's own economic agenda. And
we can now also go back to a story on the president of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Perpetual Ampofo, who is happy with sanctions meted out to Ms. Opoko Mensa, National Service Secretariat Director of the Ashanti region. She says she hopes he will learn from his mistakes.
We have seen the recommendations made, and we think that it's good. Although we're asking for him to be sacked, if you look at it critically, he's been moved to the headquarters to serve under a director under supervision. He's on suspension, and an apology is supposed to be also issued. So I think it's a good lesson for him. After all, what brought us to where we are is the fact that he could not control his anger. He had to step into a ward, insult and nurse on behalf of his daughter, and that was uncalled for. As a public officer, if you listen to the audio, he was threatening the nurse to get her transferred and all of that. That is not the reason why you are given a position. You are given a position to serve, not to threaten people or to use it against the people that you are supposed to serve. And in this case with the nurse, he actually insulted all of us as nurses and midwives. That because we fail, that's why we go and do nursing, but that's not the case. We all choose to do nursing because we love the job, and you progress in the career. As we speak today, we have professors who are nurses in Ghana. One prominent person is Professor Nibiaziato, who is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Health and Allied Sciences at the moment. There are other professors, there are doctors. there are others. You get it. So nursing, you have to start from a certain level, a certain base, and you progress. So I think he really he doesn't understand what nursing and midwifery is, and he just threw certain words out there. So I want to believe now he's gotten a better understanding about what the whole profession is about, and the fact that between us and doctors, there are instances where, because we want to ensure that the patient gets the utmost care and the patient is not burdened with financial bills that are not necessary. We as nurses advocate for the patient. And if it happens that we have to call a doctor to come do one thing or the other, it's between us as individual nurses and the doctor involved. It doesn't call for you, a father, to come in and insult anybody. So at the end of the day, I want to believe that the individuals who sat on the committee did a good job in terms of investigating and understanding the issues at stake, and came to these conclusions and made those recommendations. So it's okay, and we will move on from there. After all, the work at Mensa District Hospital is going on smoothly. The nurses are post and working. The house officer is there and working, and work is going on as usual.
You heard the Perpetual, who is the PRO for the Midwifery and Nurses Association. The Bank of Ghana has announced that it will hold its first monetary policy committee very soon. Bring you details of this shortly in business.
Hello, welcome everyone. Warm welcome to the business segment on JoyNews today with me, Pius Kojubaka. The Bank of Ghana has announced that it will hold its first monetary policy committee meeting for 2023 from Tuesday, January 24 to Friday, 27th, to review developments in the economy. The meeting, which will be the 110th, is expected to heavily discuss Ghana's high inflation rate, which stands at 50.3%, the highest in 27 years. The following report has more.
Should there be some extra measures introduced to deal with the current pressure on the Ghana cedi? Well, that's one question that would come up strongly during this first Monetary Policy Committee meeting for this year. This is due to the recent challenge with the local currency we started in December last year. The committee will also not forget about the perennial first quarter pressure on the Ghana cedi, as most businesses demand dollars to restock for the year. Again, what about inflation rate and whether it is indeed going to decline in the coming months, or some extra monetary measures are needed to check liquidity? Most industry watchers would also be looking forward to the end of year numbers for 2022 when it comes to Ghana's total debt stock, the city's performance against the US dollar, inflation rate, and whether the Bank of Ghana indeed ended 2022 missing out on most of its key monetary indicators. Also an update of the IMF program negotiations, as well as the possible board approval for a program, and the almighty debt exchange program and its impact on the entire banking industry.
Workers in the agricultural sector are casting doubts over the sector's improved fortunes. Latest GDP figures showed that Agri recorded the highest growth rate of almost 5% for the third quarter of last year. But General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAWU, Edward Kariwe, disagrees.
And these are things that you wonder why, when you do consultations, these ideas will not come on. So to start with, we are competitors to them. We are consumers to them. And what they are going to do, when you talk about expertise, what expertise? They are also going to sell their equipment to us. They will say they have got an Exim loan facility for you. The money will never come to Ghana. It will be there. When you are sourcing equipment from there, you use it to pay. They'll tell you that specific companies you have to source your equipment from and everything. In fact, I suspect, and it will include rice importation. You know, immediately it looks like, oh, it's not rice importation, it's about rice production. But give us the next 2, 3, 5 years. Look, we'll be importing rice. The companies will come and take over our lands. They'll produce, they will also bring in more rice to supplement the shortfall that they'll be having. So I'm saying that we can easily incentivize farmers, and it is easy. Our problem today is just that those who are leading us, because we have limited capacity. If you take Evans is limited. He's a farmer, he's just there. You take Doc here, Lawrence, he's limited. I am limited in some way because I don't control the state resources and I don't have the authority and the power, just as any of you do not have. But they still have. And we need to build on the state power. And this is where, unfortunately, our state is not helping its own people to grow. What they are only interested is foreign investment. And this is the procurement economy they are growing. They think that everything must be brought from outside. And look, it also undermines our dignity. It undermines our confidence.
That's it for the business segment on Joy News today. There will be more business when I come your way with the marketplace at 1. Please stay.
Let's do sports now on Joy News today with me, Muftar Nabila Abla, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Athletics Association. Bafusene says school sports is an integral part of their quest to develop the sport in the country. According to him, most athletes in the country are always assembled from competitions organized by schools in the country, and it is important the Ghana Athletics Association invest in this area.
Heart and soul of Ghana athletics. Without school sport, we can't get athletes. All the athletes that we get them from the school sports. Yes, the school sports has reduced from the 7-5 years to 3 years. Sometimes some of them run for 1 year, and that's it. So now they get maturity from the tertiary institutions. So now we get more our athletes from the tertiary universities instead of the SSS. Yes, but the problem is that the universities, the euphorium is not as the secondary school. As the secondary school. Yes, that's true. Yes, for the past 2-3 years, the basic schools have not even done sports. The BCE level. Yes, the secondary schools. And COVID and its related issues. I see. And now this year, next year, we'll have Commonwealth Youth Games in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll have African Juniors in Zimbabwe, in Zambia. Now we are forced to do school festival on ourselves next year. So we are coming up with a program to do school sports, to get athletes, for the young athletes, for the African youth, the African juniors, and the Commonwealth youth. If not, that will not get athletes to go. So the universities are also starting to do something like the US, giving athletes scholarships to come and study. But they need to go one step to be able to tie up their academic performance with the sporting performance. Yes. You can't go and leave one. It has to go together. They have to go together. If your academic performance goes down, then you have to stop the sports and back up. If your sport goes down, you have to stop one and back up. That's what they have to do now. But they are coming now. Maybe in the very near future, you will get to where the US are. Yeah. But the real issue is what you said, what Jerome said, after the school, what else? What next? Yes, what next? Yes. So now we're having 2 areas that we're trying to support. Either they go to the security services or they finish the universities and they become professional athletes.
The Sports Writers Association of Ghana, SWAG, has secured sponsorship for its 47th awards ceremony scheduled for January 28, 2023. Adamos Resources Limited was announced as the headline sponsor of the event by the president of SWAG, Kobina Yeboah.
On behalf of the General Assembly of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, we want to thank Adamus very much for this wonderful support. Mama, as you rightly indicated, this will be the 47th year that the Sports Writers Association of Ghana will be honoring distinguished sportsmen and sportswomen in this country. It's the only award ceremony that has gone unbroken over the last 47 years. And it's the first awards scheme in this country. So year after year, distinguished sportsmen and sportswomen look up to this award. Sportsmen and sportswomen work under very, very strenuous conditions and circumstances. And the least we can do is to give them some honor. So they look up to this every year. And over the years, we've honored very, very distinguished personalities like Azuma Nelson. On 7 consecutive times, we elevated him to be part of the patrons. We've honored the likes of Ikote, former world champion, Nana Okonodu, Margaret Simpson, Abedi Pele, Anthony Yeboah, and the list is endless. Ordinarily, we believe that the state should have taken up this responsibility. For good reasons, SWAG decided to embark on this journey through our forebears, and the least we can do, having taken over the baton, is to continue this process. But the Sports Writers Association of Ghana is a non-profit organization. We are very humble, modest sports journalists, so we've had to depend on the corporate world for assistance to honor our distinguished sportsmen and sportswomen. So we're very thankful to Adamus for coming on board, and we're hoping that this will be the beginning of a very long-lasting relationship. We should have hosted this in December, but because of the World Cup, we had to push it to January. So on the 28th of January at the Accra International Conference Center, we would have the honor of honoring distinguished sportsmen and sportswomen, and we're hoping that we would have you grace the occasion. We most honored.
This is your sports for now, but we do have more sports stories on myjoyonline.com. We appreciate your company.
And as I wrap up news today, this afternoon, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.